Have you ever encountered a situation where you have identified a cross-site scripting vulnerability, but you are unable to steal the cookies of that particular application? This is actually very common, and developers often use some kind of security implementation to prevent you from stealing cookies if you have got a cross-site scripting vulnerability. Now this can be useful for them because if you're able to steal a cookie, then the XSS vulnerability will automatically be triaged as a high level vulnerability because we can do account takeover and a lot of critical stuff, right? However, if you are unable to steal cookies like one present on the web application, in that scenario, your cross-site scripting vulnerability will be of severity medium, or maybe it can go up to low, right? So in this video, we are going to see that how we can actually bypass these kind of mitigations and how we can steal the cookies if the application is somehow misconfigured and increase the severity of our cross-site scripting vulnerability from medium to high level severity. Right? But as always, before diving deep into this video, if you haven't checked out my previous video, then go ahead and check it out. The video is about zip slip attack, which is very interesting and that can help you to find really interesting file upload vulnerability in modern applications. If you want to check it out, then the link is given in the description, as well as you can see it at the right side of the screen. And now, with that being said, let us get started. Now, before diving deep into this video, let us try to understand through a practical demonstration that what is the situation that we are facing. Okay, and then let's try to understand the reason behind it as well. So for example, you can see we have a lab here that is asking us to log in, right? And this lab has been designed based on a lot of real world applications. So whatever we are going to do in this particular lab is the same thing that you need to replicate on real world scenarios to find this kind of misconfiguration. Okay, so let's try to intercept the request and let's try to log in into the application first. Admin. Let's try to go ahead and click on login. You can see this is the request body here. Let's try to intercept the response. Okay, and you see when the credential is right, we have assigned a cookie, right? We've got assigned a cookie which is authentication token as well as the username, right? Let's try to forward this request now, and as you can see, we are successfully logged into the application, right? No issues at all. Now what we'll try to do is, since this application is already vulnerable to cross-site scripting, we can simply go ahead and inject a script alert 1 script tag close, and you see what happens. We are successfully getting this alert 1, right? Which means that we were successfully able to execute the XSS, right? Now to increase the impact of cross-site scripting, what we need to do is we need to somehow steal the cookies of this particular user. Remember what we saw in the beginning, the cookies that were assigned to us was authentication token as well as the username. So if we can somehow steal that cookie, then it will be a big impact. This can straight lead this vulnerability from medium severity to a high severity vulnerability. Now, instead of alert 1, let's try to go ahead and do alert document.cookie. This is the method that is going to fetch the cookies for us, right? Let's hit enter. Let's see what happens. You see something really interesting happened. Even though the application has assigned us the cookie, but we are still unable to fetch the cookie from the script, right? You might be wondering why this is happening. And to understand this, we need to understand the nature of the cookie which has been assigned to us. Let us go to the console of the browser. Let's go to application and let's select the cookies. Okay, so as you can see, this is the cookie that is assigned to us, the authentication token as well as the username. If you take a closer look, what it says that these cookies has been allocated with HTTP only. Now what HTTP only means is that this cookie can only be handled or used by the browser. If you try to access the cookie, let's say for example by JavaScript code, then you won't be able to access it anywhere because the cookies can only be accessible by the browser, by the web page itself. So no matter how many iterations of JavaScript you use, you won't be able to access it because JavaScript is not allowed to have these cookies to them. Okay, to verify that, we can also try to execute the code from this console. Okay, we can simply go ahead and type document.cookie, hit enter, and you can see the value that it is returning is null. And if we again intercept the request, we can clearly see that the cookie is there, right? This is the auth token and the username, but we cannot get it from the console or from the JavaScript, right? Now the question arises that if the application is using HTTP only cookie, will we be able to somehow steal? The answer is complicated, but overall it is yes. Why? Because if the developer has done some kind of misconfiguration, like let's say rendering the cookies to some of the web pages of the application, then we can steal it. So to understand this in depth, let's try to go ahead and see through this example or through this lab that how we can still steal the cookies even though they have blocked the cookies to be accessed from JavaScript. Let's try to go ahead and see it directly. Okay, so to be honest, there are actually a lot of ways through which we can bypass the HTTP only cookies, but in this video we're going to look into only one of that method, and eventually we'll see all the other methods as well. Okay, so one of the most common misconfiguration that developers do is that instead of using the cookies directly, they sometimes renders the cookie on the web page, maybe on this web page or maybe some other web page or maybe some third party web page that they are using somehow. So basically the idea is that they are rendering the cookies on some other web page, and the web page can be easily accessed by JavaScript code. Okay, and since we know that XSS is nothing but a way for an attacker to execute malicious JS code, we can easily fetch that. Let's try to see that how we can find these kind of misconfiguration. The very simple thing that you can do is just copy the part of the cookie or the whole cookie if you want. I'm just going to copy the part of the cookie like this. Okay, just copy it and turn off the intercept. Let's go to view sources. Let me just turn off the console. Let's go and click on view page sources, and then let's try to go ahead and find it. Okay, Control F, find it. And if you take a closer look, you can see that the cookies are also getting rendered in the web page. Now this can be a big misconfiguration, because even though, as I've told you before, that we cannot access document.cookie, but we can access this attributes or this particular input field, which can eventually help us to get the cookie, because this is what exactly is getting reflected, right? Let's try to see that how we can actually do this. It's actually very simple. First thing that we need to do is just remove this alert, set alert, and then we can simply do document.get element by ID, and then we simply need to provide the ID and dot value, and the ID I believe was secret token. Let me just confirm that by going to view source code again, and yeah, it is, the ID is secret token, right? So we can simply go ahead and do this, and we can hit enter. Okay, as you can see, we have got nothing. Let's try to go ahead and see what happened in the console, and you can see it is something very interesting. Okay, it says that cannot read the properties of null. Okay, so what it means is that it is unable to read the value of the secret token, even though it has been rendered over here. Now why this is happening is actually a little interesting. The reason is that the script it is getting executed way before the page is actually getting loaded. Like if I try to copy this whole code that I have written like this, and if we simply go ahead and paste it over here, let me just do allow pasting and then paste it here. You can see we are successfully able to fetch the cookie over here, but still we cannot do it directly from the JS code. And the main reason is that the script is executing way before the actual web page is getting rendered, right? Even if to verify that, we can also instead of this whole thing, let's do alert 1. Let me just remove this value, alert 1, and you see the web page is currently blank. There's nothing in the UI, and the XSS is the first thing that is getting executed. Now to actually bypass this, what we can do is we can use a timeout function. Okay, let's say we are going to wait for 5 seconds, and then once the timeout is completed, then we are going to fetch the value. Okay, and in JavaScript we can use that by using a function which is known as set timeout. Let's try to go ahead and use it. So let me just remove this. Let me type set timeout. Okay, and then we need to pass two values over here. The last value is the seconds to which we want to delay, the milliseconds actually. So I'm going to delay it for 5 seconds. So just 5000 will be good. And then we need to create a function, and inside the function we can execute whatever we want. So let's try to execute alert 1, and let's see if this is getting executed after 5 seconds or not. Let's try to hit enter, wait for 5 seconds, 1 2 3 4 5, wait, and perfect. The alert one is getting executed without any issues. And now instead of alert one, what we want to do is we want to get the value, right? So we can type document dot get element by ID, and then we can type secret token and then dot value. Okay, and let's hit enter. Let's see what happens. Let's wait for 5 seconds again. Hope it works. And as you can see, we were successfully able to get the value of the cookie, right, which is getting rendered on the web page. And now we have successfully stolen the cookies, even though the attribute has been set to HTTP only. Now it is important to note that we cannot directly fetch the cookie if the HTTP only is enabled. We can rely on these indirect methods and the misconfiguration by the developers to somehow get the cookies from, some passive sources, or maybe some tricks like what we're doing over here. Now, the final thing which is remaining is that we can steal the cookies and send it to a server. And for that, we're going to use a payload, which I'm going to show you right over here. Okay, so this is the final payload that we're going to use in order to steal the cookie. So what it is doing is that in the set timeout function, we are first fetching the value and storing it into the variable ABC. Okay, and then we are redirecting the page to example.com, and then inside the cookie parameter we are going to use the variable which has stored the cookie, right? So basically we are transmitting the cookie by first fetching it and storing into ABC and then redirecting it to example.com. Okay, let's try to go ahead and copy this whole URL. Copy, and let's go and paste it in a new tab. Just give me a second. Let me just go ahead and paste it right over here. And then let us wait for 5 seconds and let's see what happens. Okay, so it's taking a little more time. Let's try to wait and let's see what happens. Let me go through the console as well to see if everything is working fine. Let me just stop this as well. And yeah, and as you can see, we have successfully redirected the page to bing.com and the cookie is right over here, right? And if we can redirect this to, let's say, our own control server, then we'll be successfully stealing the cookie. And instead of bing.com, we can use attacker.com or your server's IP address or your server hostname, right? So this is how you can steal the cookies even if the cookies are not accessible by the JavaScript directly and they are using HTTP only attribute. I hope you all have understood this. If you have any doubts, if you have any issues, feel free to let me know your doubts or issues in the comment section. Also, do join our Telegram channel if you want to stay updated with the latest trends and technology in cybersecurity, bug bounty, and ethical hacking. And now, with that being said, keep watching, keep learning, and stay tuned.